Racism doesn't always shout. Sometimes it clocks in early, wears steel boots, and smiles while it grinds you down. It hides behind jokes, safety rules bent for some and enforced for others, and a system that swears it's fair while proving otherwise by lunchtime. The black man stepped onto the manufacturing floor wearing a borrowed name and an intern band badge that felt heavier than the machinery around him. The air smelled like oil and entitlement. White workers lined the stations, laughter ricocheting off metal walls, eyes tracking him with the kind of curiosity reserved for mistakes waiting to happen. Someone muttered, "Here we go," like a forecast. Another added, "Hope he keeps up." The word he did a lot of work. Tasks came fast and dirty. Instructions arrived half-spoken, then corrected with impatience. Not like that. Use your head. When he asked where the safety manual was, a worker snorted. "You'll be fine." Gloves went missing. Brakes shortened. A clipboard slammed beside him. "Hurry." He moved faster, quieter, taking notes in his head, watching how rules bent depending on skin. At lunch, seats filled except the one beside him. A cartoon taped to a locker drew laughs that stopped when he looked up. He peeled it down, folded it neatly, and kept eating. The cruelty escalated because it could, because it thought it was invisible. If this opening already hits close to home, tap like, subscribe, and comment where you're watching from. Some stories expose what workplaces pretend isn't there. By the second shift, the cruelty stopped pretending to be accidental. Orders turned into dares, tools were misplaced, then blamed on him. A pallet jammed and a white worker laughed, pointing. "Intern messed it up." The supervisor didn't check the logs. He didn't need to. Assumptions did the work for him. The black man reset the line anyway. Fingers nicked, patience intact, memory sharp. He noticed who cut corners and who enforced them. He noticed which safety switches were taped down and who signed the sheets saying they weren't. Break room chatter grew louder when he entered, louder still when he sat. Someone asked if he'd ever seen a factory before. Another joked about background checks and company image. The words landed like grit in teeth. He wrote nothing down, but he cataloged everything. Power, he knew, hates records. Near mid-afternoon, a forklift clipped a rack. Boxes spilled. The operator cursed and pointed at the intern. "He distracted me." Voices rose. The floor manager appeared, irritated, scanning faces. "What happened?" The story changed mid-sentence, edited to fit a familiar shape. The manager's gaze lingered on the intern, then hardened. "You need to listen better." "I followed procedure," the black man said, calm, precise. The room quieted, offended by his certainty. A worker stepped close, breath sour with confidence. "You calling us liars?" A shove followed, light enough to deny, sharp enough to warn. The manager snapped, telling everyone to cool it, but his eyes stayed on the intern. Warnings were issued without names. The machines restarted. The line moved. Resentment did not. Something was building, anger mistaking itself for authority, and it wanted a spark. The spark came near closing time when fatigue sharpened tempers and mistakes demanded a scapegoat. A conveyor stalled, alarms chirping. The supervisor stormed over, red-faced, pointing before asking. "You again." The black intern checked the panel, traced the fault to a sensor taped over. Same shortcut he'd clocked that morning. "It's the sensor," he said. "It's been bypassed." Laughter snapped back. "Listen to him," someone mocked. "Thinking he runs the place." A circle formed, bodies edging closer, voices stacking into noise. One worker bumped his shoulder. Another stepped into his space. The intern didn't retreat. He raised his hands, open-palmed, calm. "We can fix it safely," he said. The word safely set them off. A shove became a grab. Tools clattered. The line went quiet, machines idling like they were listening. The floor manager pushed through, barking for space. "Enough." He separated them, planting himself between the intern and the crew. The first son of bravado sneered, "He's accusing us." The manager looked at the taped sensor, then at the log sheet, then at the intern's steady eyes. "Everyone step back," he ordered. Someone cursed him for taking sides. A fist swung, not clean, not proud, glancing off the manager's shoulder. That did it. Security arrived fast. Statements overlapped. Stories contradicted each other. The intern stood apart, breathing even, recounting times, names, hazards. The manager listened, jaw tight, realizing the pattern he'd missed or ignored. He asked for the intern's ID to document the incident. The badge looked wrong in his hand, flimsy, temporary. The intern met his gaze, unflinching. "Before you file that," he said quietly, "there's something you should know." The manager nodded once and gestured toward the office, expecting paperwork, maybe a complaint. Instead, the black man removed the intern badge and placed it gently on the desk like evidence. He gave his real name. He stated his title: owner, CEO, founder. The company's silence collapsed inward. The manager's face drained of color as recognition finally caught up with memory. Press photos, quarterly emails, a signature he'd approved 1,000 times without ever imagining it would stand in front of him in steel boots. On the floor, the workers laughed, waiting for the punchline. It never came. The manager stepped out and raised his voice. Shut the line down. Machines obeyed. He pointed: names, stations, witnesses. Security moved with purpose now. Radios crackling. The taped sensors, the falsified logs, the shove, the strike, everything snapped into place. The first worker protested, then panicked. Another tried to bolt. He didn't get far. Police arrived. Statements turned to stammers. Charges were read for assault, falsifying safety records, endangerment. Termination notices followed, printed and signed on the spot. The black man watched without triumph, only clarity. This, he said, voice carrying, is what happens when cruelty thinks no one's watching. The manager apologized publicly, resigned before being asked, and offered his badge to security. By morning, the company announced reforms, audits, and a new leadership mandate from the top, his mandate. Accountability wasn't loud, it was thorough. If this ending mattered to you, like the video, subscribe and comment where you're watching from. Stories change when the truth clocks in.